Polynesian Pip, aloha, Max Strong. How you doing? Uh, Happy to see you guys. I'll be on with you shortly. Just going through a few more things that I got to check before we start the live stream. So again, thanks for being here. And if you can, let me know how the audio is coming in for you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so we'll be starting up in just a bit. Yeah, thanks for letting me know how the audio sounds. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television SBTV. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira, and this is our weekly live stream. So thank you all for being here. Uh, Switched mics, so I'm hoping this mic works out. Just let me know how it's going for you. I'm not sure if there's going to be a little bit of a audio lag, so just let me know how things are, and I'll see what I can do. Roll call real quick. You guys are such a good bunch, seriously. Polynesian Pip, aloha, Max Strong. How you doing? Pablo Pina, Carrie Ellen Wilder. How you doing? Polynesian Pip. Thanks. Wild Child, good one. Missouri. Okay. Welcome from or in Missouri. Again, if you're new, go ahead and type in new and where you're from, and we'll see if we can acknowledge you as well. BK Travelog, how you doing? Seymour Rivers, I think they're the leader still, right, in our book giveaways. How you doing? Daniel Westbrook, Lima Charlie, okay. Let's see, Edwin Rivera, thank you. The Mick, aloha, good to see you again. Okay, Jack Parsons, aloha to you as well. Okay, so looks like we're doing okay so far. Cliff Dean, haven't seen your name before. Welcome aboard, Bobby Jones. How you doing? Let's see. Um, Carrie Ellen Wilder. Thank you. Appreciate that. We try. We try. There's so much going on. It's hard to pick out the news that people feel is important. So it's an ever changing thing, and what we've learned along the way is you can't really set up a live stream Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday because all the news seems to pile in Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we're always chasing it. Captain Ron Hayward, how you doing? No hurricanes. It's good to know. No hurricanes. Pudenda Johnson, how you doing? Okay, so glad you all could be here. Appreciate it. And as always, if you are new to the channel or you haven't already done so, do subscribe, hit the bell to be notified on updates, and give us a thumbs up if you like what we do. Those thumbs up are super, very, very important. So we really do appreciate that. And as always, you can find us on social media. Our website, silverbullion.com.sg. We are a precious metals dealer. Yes, we do sell silver and gold and platinum, palladium, but we also specialize in wealth protection, systemic wealth protection. So it's another half of us that probably separates us from a lot of other bullion dealers. So again, we thank you guys for being here. Silver Bullion SG is our Facebook handle, Twitter, Silver Bullion PL, audio versions, bit.ly/SBTV iTunes or SBTV Spotify and Telegram. Join the Telegram group. A lot of news comes out. My colleague Vincent, he graciously sifts through a lot of the news that comes out, and he will post on this Telegram group news that is important, or things that we should really be taking a look at as far as financial news, economic news, precious metals news. So do join that Telegram network. It will save you a lot of time and headache trying to find out what news really matters. So thank you to my colleague Vincent for doing this. Okay, a few more items on the roll call. Let's see. Daniel Westbrook. Yes, it is. So I'm trying to work it out and see how it goes. Let's see. Thomas Tubes, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. Hope everything's been going. No, you've been here. Thanks, Thomas. Ralph Steiner, how you doing? Let's see. Yeah, Anna Krizelinski. I'm sorry, I might have ruined your name there. Yeah, we're going to be looking at later on. We're going to be looking at how when currency dies, or what the reasons are for when currency dies. And I realize it's currency. It's not money, but for most people, they still say money. So in the title, we had to go ahead and put money on the thumbnail. So yes, I understand it's currency. Okay, Nick B. Okay, glad you all could be here. Appreciate it. Upcoming guest, Alistair McLeod, head of research at Gold Money, is going to be joining us. His experience in the financial markets include being a stockbroker and member of the London Stock Exchange. For most of his 40 years in the finance industry, he has been demystifying macroeconomic events for his investing clients. Actually, for all of us. So thank you, Alistair. And his accumulation of this experience has convinced him that unsound monetary policies, get this, unsound monetary policies are the most destructive weapon governments use against the common man. Pretty strong words. I think most of us would agree to what he's saying. So I do hope you'll join us later on this week for that Alistair McLeod interview. It's first time guest on SBTV. So, it should be pretty interesting for me as well. And I'm looking forward to it. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Moving on. Okay. Yeah, Pudenda Johnson, absolutely. Love Alistair. I think he's very it's very unique. And I mean that in a positive way. He's just a bit different from everyone else in a very, very positive way. Okay, so moving on, we're gonna play our book game. This week we're gonna give away Stack Silver, Get Gold. Different book. It's a 2019 updated edition, and it's the only gold and silver investing book you need because it's written by a nationally recognized precious metals investing expert and Chicago Mercantile Exchange futures trader with 17 years of buying gold and silver bullion under his belt. He reveals the tricks of the trade that people in the gold and silver industry don't want you to know. This is a little bit different book, Stack Silver, Get Gold, how to buy gold and silver bullion without, well, let's just say how to buy it and do well. So it's a bit of a different book, but got to take a look at things from all angles, right? Maybe there's something in there you didn't know, I didn't know. So it's always good to play or look at different angles. Rules for the game. Download the Kindle app from your phone or tablet's app store. Okay, it's free, so don't worry about that. And it is probably the best way to read an ebook. So it's a great deal there. And be the first to answer correctly in this live stream before the timer runs out. Timer's about a minute 30. Winners in the U.S. will be given a link to download the ebook. Winners outside the U.S. are on a boat sailing somewhere, as some of you guys are doing. Winners outside the U.S. are on the ocean, the seven seas somewhere, will be offered an alternative prize at our discretion. Don't worry, we won't forget about you. And you'll have to provide us an email during this live stream. So what'll happen is if you're one of the winners, we will mute your comments so only we will see it. And that way you can go ahead and give us your email and we'll take note of that and know where to send the ebook to. And again, my colleague Vincent, he's always on standby and he will take your email down and we'll get that book to you a bit later on. Okay. So having said that, let's move on to the question. You'll have about a minute 30 to answer it. Okay, here we go. According to Marc Faber, Dr. Marc Faber, gold is blank relative to oil, agricultural commodities, silver, and platinum. Okay, so according to Dr. Marc Faber, gold is blank relative to oil, agricultural commodities, silver, and platinum. Okay, so we'll be looking for first guy who gets it right, and then a few guys after will also be given a runner-up type of a prize. So go ahead and give it your best shot. Give it your best shot. Gold is blank relative to oil, agricultural commodities, silver, and platinum. Okay, so we got about 40 more minutes or so. Looking for the correct answer here. Let's see. What do we have so far? Expensive, synonyms, counter, expensive, Min Chin Sao, superior. Pudenda Johnson seems to think Max has it. Maybe. Different color. That's a good one. Cheap, useless, correlated, shiny. Pablo Pina, I'd enjoy his. Marc Faber, yeah, he does. I like his laugh also. Prettier. Okay, so I think time's up, and we had two winners. Two winners. Even though you think someone got it right, just go ahead and continue to answer anyway. Because if you also got it right, we will continue to. I mean, we also give you a runner-up prize. So, looking at it, Max Strong is the winner here, and we also had Seymour Rivers as a runner-up. So Max Strong will get the primary book, and then Seymour Rivers will get the Build Your Own Bank book by Aon Schmidt. So good job, guys. Good job. Good job. Appreciate the answers that came in. And just to confirm the answer, here's Dr. Marc Faber saying it in his own words.
So it leads me back to the view that probably what makes most sense are precious metals. Now, I'm not saying that gold is particularly cheap here. It's actually expensive compared to oil. It's expensive compared to all the agricultural commodities, which, by the way, started to move up. And I think that's a symptom of future consumer price inflation, where food prices will go up. And gold is, of course, expensive compared to silver still. The silver ratio has adjusted somewhat, but not enough. And it's expensive compared to platinum.
So there you go. Just so we all stay even here and know the answer. Yes, it was expensive. So again, congratulations to Max and Seymour. You guys always on top of things. You make me nervous. You make me keep on top of things when I have viewers that are always keeping on top of things. But again, great job. Great job. I mean, we're all here for a reason, right? We understand what's going on with financial world, economic world. So we need to always keep informed, stay ahead, and keep moving forward. So again, great job. And with that, we'll go ahead and take a look at our website and see exactly how gold and silver are doing this morning. So let's get going here. So we're at the website. So hopefully this is coming in okay for you guys. And then in US dollars, silver is at 25.10. Okay, so back over the 25 mark. Gold just a shade under, hitting that 2,000 per ounce mark again. So both metals are moving up this morning. So that's a good thing. Nickel getting ready to break into that 16,000 per ton range, and I am personally keeping an eye on nickel. It's been doing some good things lately. Again, as always, download this investor kit. It is free, and all you need to do is come to the website www.silverbullion.com.sg and go ahead and click on this, and a PDF will open up for you. If you'd rather not download, it'll open up on the website, and you can go ahead and see the different reasons why you should be looking at silver, even gold, and why you should consider if it is if you are in a position to store overseas, why you should consider it, and the good points, the points that can be of value to you are all in there. And do sign up for a Star Storage account. You never know when you need it, or you may need it, so it's good to have there ready for you to go. There's no maintenance charges or account opening charges or anything like that. So this is good to have ready to go. And these are some of the latest peer-to-peer loans that were, or actually loan rates that were offered. What you do is, if you have gold and silver stored with us, You can create a borrowing request using the gold and silver you own as collateral, and you will still own it. So you can go ahead and use that as collateral. And then if you have extra money, if you have extra money, first of all, congratulations to you. But if you do have extra money and you're looking for another investment where maybe your yields just aren't there, you can consider lending money to the peer-to-peer platform where gold and silver is the collateral for it. So it's very much a secured, low interest, even low interest loan, secured low interest loan. Gold silver ratio. We're back at 75. We were at 79 a couple weeks ago. It's come down a bit. So it takes roughly 75 ounces of silver to equal one ounce of gold. So that's for you guys who had bought up here, which wasn't that long ago in the 100, it actually should be 120 range. You guys have been doing well. You've been absolutely doing well. So congratulations to you folks who knew how to play the ratio. Great job. Great job there. Going over to Twitter, taking a look at a few Twitter items. Um, Peak prosperity. Fed goes burr. Continuing to go burr. We mustn't lose sight that no matter how bad things get, the sun will rise the next day. Nice calming words there. This is a very important question to keep in our minds and hearts. Uh, yes, from actually, this is a reply or response to Adam Taggart. Yes, there are a lot of reasons to worry about the coming future, and a lot of us know them already. It's my job to track those concerns daily, but what gives you hope? It's a question for you folks out there. What gives you hope? There's a lot of reasons to have hope, right? A lot of good things that are still yet to come. Daniel DiMartino Booth. Diamond, an imposing business leader with a conscience. He doesn't spare lefty fools who vilify corporate America or Trump supporters with their trade war. Fernanda says this is coming from Daniel Timor Booth. This is actually in response to, I guess we could just chop that part out. It's response to Jamie Dimon should be top choice for Joe Biden's Treasury Secretary. So, well, I just asked you folks what gives you hope, and I guess I'll ask you folks, how do you feel if Jamie Dimon were the Treasury Secretary? That would be that would be yeah, that would be interesting for sure. Silver Independent tweeted out the role of silver in America's drive towards energy independence. The role of silver in America's basically we're looking at renewables and things like how silver is going to be used quite heavily in things like solar and if you folks have been looking at renewable energies, a lot of companies they've been moving up phenomenally. They have just been going up and going up and going up, and so it's even reflecting over in the stock market where we had Chris Vermeulen. He spoke on it, and it is absolutely correct. You go ahead and take a look at it. You see these stocks moving up. Quote the Raven, own gold. All right, so let's see what Mr. Trudeau had to say and why is quote the Raven saying own gold. Let's go ahead and play this.
Development and the SDGs. Canada is here to listen and to help. This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty, inequality, and climate change. Building back better means getting support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs. Canada is here to listen and to help. This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty, inequality, and climate change.
Okay, so he mentioned a couple of interesting things there, where 2030 agenda. I think most of us we've heard about this. It have been a pretty wild idea out there, something you should be aware of or know about. Take the time to understand it. And he talked about how the pandemic is basically an opportunity for a reset. Um, if this is how world leaders think, um, then yes, definitely, as quote the Raven said, we should be owning gold. We should be owning silver. If this is how world leaders, central banks, if this is how their thinking is, then again, we can still do things. We can still do things that are going to help us out. We can still do things that are going to set us up to be in a better position. So looking at the comments here, let me just see what he's saying there. How you folks feel about the comments? Yeah, I can see folks have some pretty strong comments. Let me just read through them real quick. Yeah, okay. Sydney Paul talking about the Kraken. Yeah, that's interesting. Wondering what that Kraken will be. Um, let's see. Okay. I guess you guys are okay. A lot of charged issues, a lot of charged emotions out there for sure, and with good reason. So I'll continue on with the Twitter feed here. Let me get back to screen share. So that was Trudeau. I mean, it's not mincing his words. He's letting you know straight up. Bloomberg, where the 521 billion in U.S. small businesses, where the aid went, small business aid went. Fortunately, I can't open this up, but it was just to kind of say where all that money really went to. Catherine Austin Fitz tweeted out that new defense chief puts DOD on notice, the Department of Defense on notice. All wars must end. That is something I think none of us really have ever heard. All wars must end. It's I let's hope so. We can get out of that phase and use our productivity in I mean, let's be productive in other ways besides war. So that was an interesting tweet there. Lawrence Lepard, interesting that someone realizes that a monetary reset is inevitable and that, hey, maybe it makes sense to have someone who understands sound money as the Fed governor. I think the Pentagon tapped the senators on the shoulder. And this responds to breaking news not that long ago where Judy Shelton appears now to have enough Republican support for her nomination to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors to get through. The U.S. Senate is preparing to vote as early as next week to confirm Judy Shelton. This is huge news. And this would be something different because Judy Shelton, I don't want to label her a gold bug, but she does absolutely understand the role that gold can play. So Judy Shelton, let's see how this one goes. Okay, Egon von Greyers, we are now seeing physical shortages in the silver market, and I'll need to check on this later on also at the shop and see really how things are. This comes from a quote that he gave or he said in an interview. Let me get down here. What he said basically was there are shortages of silver and there is always a delay in getting silver. We deal mainly in the 1,000 ounce bars, the huge bars. But if you go to kilo bars, there is now a 6-month wait for those from the Swiss refiners. So this is just a quote, and there's a ... here. So we need to understand the full context of what Egon is saying. But from this here, he's saying that from his position, he's starting to see a delay in getting silver. So if you have that delay, and right now the world is kind of positioning again, or different parts of the world positioning again for another lockdown, you could see silver once again, as we saw earlier in the year, getting pretty hard to acquire. So keep an eye on this. TF Metals, even though I am and most everyone else are blocked by this guy, I might as well post the link, excuse me, as it's helpful information. So let's go ahead and see what this is about. And who is the guy blocking everyone? It's James Rickards. All right, the bogus case against gold. Gold is in the early stages of its third great bull run that will take it to record highs. This article came out November 12th, 2020. So the first two, great bull markets were 71 and 80, where gold went up 2,200%. 99, 2011, gold went up 760%. And after peaking in 2011, most of us know this, gold fell sharply from that peak to below 1,100 per ounce in 2015. So he goes on to say that the third great bull market is underway. It began in December 2015 when gold bottomed at 1050 per ounce at the end of 2011-2015 bear market. Since then, gold has been up significantly, but it's a small change compared to that 2,200%, 760% gain. Still, most mainstream economists dismiss gold. They call it a barbarous relic and say it has no place in today's monetary system. But today I want to remind you of the three main arguments mainstream economists make against gold and why they're dead wrong. And some of them we know there's not enough gold. Um, let's see if I can just find the three articles here. Well, not enough gold, not enough gold to support global trade. This is something that Kennedy referred to. And the other reason, third reason, money doesn't offer yield. So these are the three arguments that we always hear. But nonetheless, we are looking at gold to, once again, continue on with that bull market. And if history shows anything, 2,200%, 760%, we are well on our way. Gerald Salente, not sure if I can play this for you. You dropped a few F bombs out there, but he's continuing the mask mandate fight. He's continuing to ask people to stand up for their rights. This is bigger than anything that any of us have ever seen in our lifetime. So Gerald's leading a charge, and he says things only the way Gerald Salente can. But that is one of the things we appreciate him for, right? This one, German firm picks Orlando as America's first flying taxi hub. This is interesting because it goes back to the move to electric vehicles, and we are even talking about electric vehicle aircraft. And why am I bringing this here? Because it involves nickel once again. Nickel being one of the biggest components to electric vehicle batteries. Another reason why I will continue to say watch nickel. So this coming out from Zero Hedge, and we are going to be looking at flying taxis within our lifetime, within our future. Bill O'Reilly, haven't seen this guy in a while. Are you ready for the collapse of the news media? It's coming. A lot of people aren't happy with the news, and we have to decipher truth. So that it'll play out. It'll play out. Just keep your eyes and ears open. Let's see. Albert Edwards, don't these central banks ever retire? Now, I started off saying Jamie Dimon might be the Treasury Secretary. Jennifer Epstein, she's saying Janet Yellen is under consideration by the Biden team for Treasury Secretary. Now, I know you guys are going to explode when you hear this. So we have under consideration for Treasury Secretary, we have we have Dimon, and we have Yellen. So it just, you can't make these things up, right? So with that, let's take a break from all this news madness and let's just watch this guy here. Relax a bit. This guy is pretty cool. He gets a treat from his master, his owner. Master leaves. Yeah. He goes ahead and takes his treat while the master's away. And he's going to sneak over and replace it. So, all right. So let's thank this beautiful dog here for giving us a little laugh this morning or this evening. Life is still good, right? There's a lot of things in life that can still make us smile. So he's just, what a dog. What a dog. Yeah, good boy. Good doggy. Good doggy. There you go. So that's what's up with Twitter. So, I mean, kind of, it's really a mixed bag, Again, Diamond under consideration for Treasury Secretary. And then, some guys are even saying Yellen is under consideration for Treasury Secretary. And then we have Judy Shelton, who understands gold. And looks like she's going to get in to be a Fed governor. So, I mean, you got to kind of really wonder where it's like a rubber band, things are just, they just keep getting stretched back and forth, back and forth. I mean, these guys are at opposite ends here. Diamond Yellen, especially Yellen. I mean, she's not going to like gold in any way. And then you have Shelton going on as being a governor. She may want gold. So I mean, it's kind of for me. I kind of asked what's really going on with this. It just seems so different for these two types of philosophies to come into play with the money. It's or with the currency. So I find it pretty. I mean, it's an amazing thing to consider and to see how this thing is going to unfold. So let's see what folks have been talking about here. Let's see. Gooseneck 171. I just hope I have enough metals. And that's an interesting statement because again, some people look at gold and silver purely on the investment side. Other people, they look at it as a type of insurance, type of a hedge. And these are, you know, these two viewpoints, they may not be the same, but they do kind of shade over into one another. And so for people who are only looking at gold and silver as an investment, it's an investment slash hedge against what's going on, against the dollar, against money printing, all of these things, which then shades over into how it is an insurance for you, how it is a vehicle that can transfer your wealth from this current monetary system to the next one that's going to come. And it will come because, as we're going to look at in a bit, how currencies, or the reasons currencies die and a commonality they have is they all start with a new currency. There's a new currency that will replace the old currency, meaning we're going to go from here to there. So we'll take a look at that shortly. I want to take a look at a couple things first that Dr. Marc Faber said. So after that, we'll talk about it for a bit. But here's one thing. First thing that Dr. Marc Faber said.
If people choose not to own any gold, silver, and platinum, it's a choice that expresses high confidence in the integrity of central bankers and politicians. If you don't own any precious metals, it's like saying, I trust Washington, D.C.
Okay, so question for you guys. How many people here have physical gold and silver? Just go ahead and type in me in the comment section and let us know why you own it. Again, as I always say, your comments are the most important thing here because there are people who do watch and maybe have not gotten into gold and silver yet, but have heard about it, have seen it moving, and maybe they understand the reasons why, they don't understand the reasons why, or let's just say they have an idea, but not quite ready to pull the trigger yet. Let's just put it that way. And they're on the fence. Should I buy gold and silver? Should I invest somewhere else? So your comments, again, they are the most important thing that can help someone to decide. So again, I'm curious, how many people here have physical gold or silver? Okay, I do, mostly silver. And type in me in the comment section. Let us know why you own it. I own it because I do see that we are going to move into a new monetary system. And when fiat currencies, when they lose their value, if you only have fiat currencies, you lose it. How are you going to where's the value? Put it that way. If you had $1 million in cash, let's say, or paper assets, cash assets, what do you do if the fiat goes down? You lose everything basically. So you need something to store that value. So for myself, I've never looked at gold and silver as an investment. I'll be truthful there. I've never seen it as an investment. I've only looked at it as a type of systemic wealth protection, which is one reason why I'm more than happy to be associated with silver bullion or work for silver bullion in Singapore, because they also understand systemic wealth protection and they're paving the road. I will say that they are paving the way for people who also understand it as well. So that's my reason. So I'm curious more to see what are your reasons if you own silver and gold. Luke Jones, 1,000 ounces. Good, great. 1,000 ounces is good. Let's see what else is out there. I'm not going to feel secure till I can get 50 or 60 ounces if I can. You'll get there. You'll get there. Just get what you can when you can, and I think most importantly, don't overextend, don't over leverage. Just get what you can when you can. Max Strong, 500 ounces, good. That's great. I mean, that's great. That's great. 500 is great. You guys are. That's great. I mean, I think that's more than most people probably would understand why or why you should go ahead and get that much. But it's a great amount. 500 is great. Um, let's see what else is out there. Keep stacking. Absolutely, just keep stacking. Don't stop. And okay, so a lot of me's out there. I'm glad you folks have gold and silver. And it. I think right now what's more important than maybe the amount you have is just understanding why you have it. If you understand why you have it, then you're going to understand that why maybe you should get more, or if there's a set target, you can look to get to set a goal. So if you understand these reasons first, then I would say you're on the right track. So I thank you guys for sharing that with me. Here's something else that Faber had to say.
And if you don't trust the government 100%, then you should own precious metals. It doesn't mean that these mafia like behaving politicians, actually they behave worse than the mafia, because the mafia had a lot of integrity. A word was a word, and you gave your word that you would pay your debts. You had to pay them. If you didn't pay them, it wasn't a very pleasant experience. But the government officials don't have much honor. But I'd say they will do everything they can to stay in power.
Okay, so some more words from Faber. I just want to go through some of these first. Always be funding, yes. Store of value, inflation hedge, and investing. Absolutely. Red pill lens. I buy it to retain my wealth. Absolutely, absolutely. There you go, Peter Wilson. Me too. Trust gold, not government. Rusty Shackelford. Me because it's eternal, beautiful and eternal. Absolutely. Again, uh, let's see, Mr. Nguyen. I'll just call you Mr. Nguyen. Collection and wealth preservation. Absolutely. Again, you guys you're on it. You're on it. So if you're on the fence and trying to decide should you get silver or gold, I mean, look at some of these comments here. Me, I don't trust fiat. Absolutely, I don't trust fiat as well. Jay Quinty, wealth preservation. Absolutely. Um, or we can all be like Dean Backer. I don't trust anyone. There you go. There you go. So Faber says politicians, have they become mafia-like? Do they keep their word? That's for each person to decide. But I think we're all going to kind of be thinking anonymously on that one. And these are two of many reasons why the move to sound money, hard money, liquid money, asset-backed money. So let me ask you this question here, though. The U.S. holding the world's reserve currency, have we, and being from the U.S., I'm speaking for me as well, and I'll have to say, have we been acting responsibly, honorably with the world's reserve currency? Have we been doing that? And I'm not talking politics. I'm simply asking your opinion and talking about if we are doing the dollar right. It's my question. It's a simple question here. Are we doing the dollar right? Is our government doing the dollar right? Our Congress, our Federal Reserve, are they doing the dollar right? Because if not, I mean, they're giving people reasons to move away from the dollar. So yes, thing is, we're pushing countries to want to leave the dollar, and we can't blame them, right? They are forced to use our money, and we're not doing the dollar right. We're pushing them away. That's just the way it works out here, which could eventually make the dollar worthless. And this is what I want to talk about: when money becomes worthless, either by the people not wanting it, you and I not wanting it, or the world not wanting it anymore. And when even the printers of the money, the money makers themselves, they don't, they won't honor it. There are times that governments and central banks, or let's just say governments have printed money, treasuries have printed money, and they won't honor it. And so this is what we'll touch on here. So this all stems from a post on this last Veterans Day, a post that from past guest Franklin No. He put out something that I found interesting because I had an experience with one of the things that he spoke about. And what he said was, again, this is Veterans Day last week. Today is Veterans Day in the U.S. As a nod to that, we can recall that money was a part of every soldier's lives. Okay, reference to Veterans Day, right? So during World War II, U.S. Treasury printed special currency to be used in the payment of troops in the different theaters of war. Silver certificates and Federal Reserve notes bearing a Hawaii overprint were issued during the war. Between 1942 and 44, these notes circulated in Hawaii and the Pacific Theater, and their brown seals and serial numbers differentiated them from notes issued in the mainland U.S. In the event of the notes entering enemy hands, the notes could be declared valueless. So it's interesting where you had a soldier, a service member can be fighting overseas, and all of a sudden, government can say, "Hey, the money's worthless. It's done. We're not going to honor it anymore." And yet you are there fighting overseas. And similarly, silver certificates were issued for use by American troops during the invasion of North Africa in November of 42. And these notes were also overprinted, okay, overprinted with distinctive yellow treasury seals to distinguish them from regular silver certificates, overprinted as well, overprinted with blue seals. Like the overprinted Hawaii notes, these distinctive certificates could be declared worthless if captured by the enemy. So if the enemy had it and they go ahead and decide to declare it worthless, if you're a service member overseas holding these notes, it's going to be worthless as well. It's my understanding of it. So there are hard times you can be giving your life up for these things and for money, and it'll be declared worthless. So these are how the two notes looked. You can see the top one on the left and right side. You see the word Hawaii printed on that bill. And I remember growing up, my parents still had these bills, these overrun Hawaii type silver certificates. So I'm familiar with these. I've seen them. And below you have the one with the yellow seal where it says Washington D.C. on the right hand side. And these were the ones that were in North Africa. And both of these notes at any time could be deemed worthless by Treasury. So just like that, at any time, a government, a Treasury can say that your currency is worthless. So moving on. This had me reflecting on two things: currencies that were used in the military and how currency could be declared or become useless or worthless, be it military or civilian currency. And we've seen this, and this is what we're going to take a look at, where we saw countries who basically they hyperinflated and they had to create new currencies. But I'll first touch on something not many of us know about. Vietnam vets will, Korean War vets will, and if you were spent some time World War II, if you're here, thank you. But if you're here also, you will know about this as well. I'm talking about military payment certificates, or MPCs. So again, Vietnam vets, Korean War vets, you guys are going to know what this is. So if you use these, feel free to chime in. So what I'll go ahead and do is take a look at what MPCs are. Let me get this a bit bigger here. Okay, so MPCs are military payment certificates. This is just from Wikipedia. They were a form of currency used to pay military personnel in certain foreign countries. They were used in one era or another for a few months after the end of World War II until a few months after the end of the U.S. participation in the Vietnam War, from 46 to 73. So during these roughly 2 decades, they were used for soldiers overseas. Military payment certificates, MPCs, utilized layers of line lithography to create colorful banknotes that could be produced cheaply. 15 series of MPCs were created. However, only 13 series were issued. The remaining two were largely destroyed, although some examples remain. Among the 13 released series, a total of 94 notes are recognized. And part of the reason for this was, let me just read this paragraph. NPCs evolved from Allied military currency, this is World War II, as a response to large amounts of US dollars circulated by American servicemen in post World War II Europe. Local citizens might not trust local currencies as the future of their governments was unclear. Preferring a stable currency like US dollars, local civilians often attempted or accepted payment in dollars for less than the accepted conversion rates, and dollars became more favorable to hold, inflating local currencies. So this was the problem here, inflating local currencies. If guys were using dollars, this other currency was stepping in parallel to the local currency, and the US dollar started buying up the goods and services. Then you have a lesser amount of goods and services with a whole lot more of the local currency chasing after, which is going to create the inflation, right? So this inflating local currencies and thwarting plans to stabilize local economies. That was the key point here. Contributing to this problem was the fact that the troops were being paid in dollars, which they could convert in unlimited amounts to the local currency, with merchants floating a black market conversion rate. And this evolved, the black market conversion rate, which was much more favorable to the GIs than to the government fixed conversion rate. So from this conversion rate imbalance, the black market developed where the servicemen could profit from the more favorable exchange rate. So that's what NPCs are. So let me take a look here. I think there were a few things that came in. Um, yeah, hidden numismatics. How there you are. Thank you. Appreciate your help here. Um, we appreciate you too, and God bless also. We're thankful that you can be here just about every week. I do see your name, so thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Um, Always good to hear what you have to say as well. So let's see if any of you guys are familiar with NPCs. Let us know. Let us know if you've actually held them or used them, because these were something that was very big a few, well, half a century ago, I guess we could say by now. Taking a look at a few comments here, just going through it. Okay, so now I want to get into 12 times that governments, hang on here, let me come up. 12 times currency was rendered almost worthless, and why? Or in some cases, they were even worthless. So some of the, what happened there? There you go. Some of the worst inflation in history has coincided with war, as we just saw with NPCs, as several of the worthless or nearly worthless currencies on this list illustrate. Wars are massively expensive, and one of the fastest ways for a cash strapped government to pay for one is to fire up the presses and churn out a pile of paper money. However, history is pretty clear that this tactic will get you stabbed in the back with the dull, rusty blade of inflation. And if that stab wound gets infected and turns into hyperinflation, which usually happens, your economy is toast, which is doubly bad if you end up on the war's losing side. And this is something we touched about before when we looked at Kennedy, and Kennedy seemed to have not been in favor of money being linked to gold. This was part of the reason why, because if you have it linked to gold, you cannot fund wars. You cannot print. And so we saw Nixon close that gold window thereafter. And of course, a lot of wars have since followed with the ability to just print. I really just want to say gold backing the money will give peace in some way. But nonetheless, so let's take a look at a few. Venezuela's sovereign Bolivar. In an effort to combat hyperinflation, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro announced the launch of a new paper currency that takes off 5 zeros from the country's bills that are losing value all too quickly. So let's just scoot on over to here. Look at this article where this is back in 2018 now. Late 18. Venezuela's massive currency devaluation is a scam and does nothing to ease its economic crisis. So let's just go and let's just play this clip here. Let me turn this down for now, and we'll get through this. Let's see some of the comments here. Enslavement of Western civilizations, trade war, currency war. Whoops, here comes United Nations. That's the thing. We gotta. We have to be better. We all have to be better and do better. But it all starts with each of us individually.
Banks there are closed today as the leadership tries another round of what they call economic reforms. Becky mentioned the massive devaluation. They're also going to introduce a new currency, which removes 5 zeros from the biggest bill as the country suffers from hyperinflation, which some economists say is now worse than it ever was in the Weimar Republic. The largest bill is a 100,000 Bolivar note. It's worth 3 U.S. cents. A cup of coffee is reported to cost 2 million bolivars, so they're going to change that. They're also going to raise the minimum wage by more than 1,000% and raise gasoline prices to international levels to combat smuggling. You know, it's subsidized, so if you can get it to Colombia, you can sell it for a lot more. The Syria-like border crisis with its neighbors is worsening. Millions are trying to flee what some are now calling the Somalia of Latin America. It's not clear what's going to finally force change there. The government clings to socialist beliefs of price controls and also state control of resources. Wall Street Journal reporting Goldman Sachs is facing losses on its heavily criticized purchase of Venezuelan bonds from last year. Goldman bought them at 31 cents on the dollar. In June, they marked them at 18 cents on the dollar, so they're probably worth less now.
So who owns those bonds? Aren't they in their mutual funds or
Yes,
something?
exactly. So remember, Volcker rule doesn't permit, banks themselves to actually take positions. So they bought these, and then they were sold to clients, and they're sitting in a lot of individual accounts. So the clients would have taken on the risk of that.
When was the last time? How long ago was Venezuela kind of a country where you could visit it? It was before Chavez, I guess. Is it?
You could visit it up until under what sort of you mean when it was safe or when America?
No, what I'm getting to is when was it not? When was the minimum wage not $1 a month? Was it? What was the best it ever? Well, they're getting to $30 a month. What was the best it ever was? Was it ever $200 a month, or was it ever a normal, like Western type? What you'd think of as something in the Americas? Was it ever 5,000?
So this descent into chaos definitely started under Chavez. The problem you had in Venezuela for a long time, which was true for a lot of Latin America still, is you had the very rich and the very poor and no middle class. Venezuela has suffered from having too much oil. Countries that have too much oil, we have seen often make very bad decisions because they have so much money.
As much because there's nobody who will invest to get the oil out of the ground.
Because you don't know if you're going to still own it.
2 million barrels.
You can't take a risk.
They were supposed to be at 6 million barrels per day. I mean, it's pathetic.
But does everyone know it's that the living wage? No, that it's $1. I read $1 a month. And that struck me. I didn't realize just right down in Venezuela.
It's hard to do apples to apples because they've had massive devaluations and hyperinflation. Maybe that particular amount of bolivars at one point was actually a livable wage.
Okay, I'll stop it there. I think most of us we kind of get what was going on. Some of a few things she said was pretty interesting. I mean, you could definitely apply it to the U.S. right now. I mean the wealth gap for one thing. And I think, this was a couple years ago, but it does seem like, it's getting closer and closer to something that could be applied to the U.S. at some point, again, being the world's reserve currency. So, sometimes you really got to take a look in the mirror and understand that the problems other people have, it's the same things that you might have or we might have. So I think, a lot of us here understand this already. A bunch of things that she said can be applied to the U.S. So I'm looking at your comments as well, trying to see what's out there. But I don't think we should be overly confident in that something like this would never happen with the U.S. So anyway, let's take a look. So that was Venezuela. What was going on there? Moving on. Zimbabwe. A lot of us are familiar with Zimbabwe, right? We understand what happened there. Zimbabwe was, just read through this here. In significant trouble in the early aughts, as you can see by the 100 trillion bill pictured above. President Robert Mugabe's land reforms had murdered the country's economy by destroying its main export, commercial farming crops. This left Zimbabwe with essentially no foreign exchange to speak of and skyrocketing prices on basically everything. Government tried to keep itself afloat by printing more and more paper money, which led to hyperinflation, further complicating the problem. So again, this is something like Venezuela, and like Zimbabwe. This is something that we are seeing with central banks printing and printing more paper money, and they've scrapped their target inflation, but they're looking at an average inflation rate, which means they are going to go over that 2% in the Fed's case anyway. And question is going to be then, will they be able to control it? So again, something on a lot of people's minds. So let me move down. In 2009, the government was forced to admit its currency problem. Okay, in 2009, the government was forced to admit its currency problem. It rolled out a multi-currency system that included the US dollar and the South African rand, plus its own bills, with the 12 pesky zeros conveniently removed. The Zimbabwe dollar didn't work out, and the country officially took it out of circulation in 2015. So their money was replaced with another type of money. Okay, so let's take a look at this here. Zimbabwe dollars phased out, and I'll just read through a few parts here. Foreign currencies like the USD, South African rand, have been used for most transactions since 2009. It's a bit of an older article. Okay, so this was 2015, so let's keep that in mind. Let's see. The move has been pending along outstanding. Central Bank Governor John Mongudia said, quoted by Bloomberg, "We cannot have two legal currency systems. We need, therefore, to safeguard the integrity of the multiple currency system or dollarization in Zimbabwe. Zimbabweans have until the end of September to exchange their local dollars." Okay, so people had to give up their currency and move into another one. So correspondents say this is likely to affect those with savings account, or only those with savings accounts. So I want to get to one part here because this is pretty interesting. So I'll play this for you guys. I think it's about 3 minutes or so, but it's pretty interesting what went on there. Something called bond coins. Bond coins.
So what is here is very
About 10 million US dollars worth of these coins are in circulation, but there are few takers, partly because consumers think the Zim dollar is being brought through the back door. The introduction of functional currencies such as the South African rands and even the United States dollars after the collapse of the Zim dollar has had its fair share of problems. One of them, there weren't enough coins in the system, so that created a problem of change. A consumer would walk to a till such as this one. Instead of getting his or her change, he'll get products such as chocolates and even sweets. Now, to alleviate that problem, the central bank then decided to introduce bond coins. The bond coins are being circulated through banks and finding their way into the retail sector. But most supermarkets are having to deal with the reluctant consumers.
The response hasn't been so good. There are few customers coming in with the bond coins, and when it comes to giving them out as change, most of our customers prefer the rand coin, or some would rather take the SPAR vouchers. Apart from dealing with the chronic shortage of loose change, the bond coins were also meant to address the pricing system. But this hasn't been effective so far. The central bank now has had to come.
Okay, I think I can end it there. So basically there was a loss of confidence as well, and so they came out with these bond coins, and it got to a point people didn't trust the money, and the only thing they could give them was sweets. Sorry, we don't have coins for you, so we can complete the transaction or balance out the rest of the transaction with some lollipops or some other types of sweets. And again, it goes down to the fact that people had no confidence in the money or in the currency. And this is something we see time and time again in countries that ended up hyperinflating. And it's just a pattern that repeats over and over and over. So let's continue on. So we had Zimbabwe, we've had Venezuela. So we'll continue on. German marks and the world wars. A lot of us we are fairly familiar with the story where Germany had a couple currency snafus in the 20th century during the Weimar era. After World War One, the country tried to pay its reparations by printing money, and prices went through the roof to the point that in 1923 they were about 5 trillion times higher than they should have been, and people were paying for loaves of bread with entire wheelbarrows full of cash. Money eventually became so useless, German citizens used it to light their pipes and stoves and gave stacks of it to kids to play with like Legos. So money became just about worthless. So after defeat in World War II, Germany faced a similar scenario, and the Allies imposed price controls that left the country financially devastated. The German Reichsmark became weaker and weaker, and it was finally replaced by the Deutsche Mark at the crippling rate of about 10 Reichsmarks to 1 Deutschmark. This conversion process ruined a lot of people whose lives were tied up in Reichsmarks, but in the end, the country was able to recover under a new currency model. So what happened? They had to get rid of the current existing currency, which ruined a lot of people, and came in with a new currency. So let me just take a look at this article real quick as well. Why Germans pay cash for almost everything. And this is the fallout of what happened in their history. So as banks, let me get this a bit bigger for you guys. So as bank technology giants and would-be disruptors such as Square scrummage over the payment system of the future, German consumers seem perfectly happy with the payment system of the past. Germany retains one of the most cash-intensive advanced economies on earth. Mind you, this is 2014, and I'm sure things have changed a bit, but it just goes to show that people have to have confidence in their money. On average, wallets in Germany hold nearly twice as much cash, about $123 worth, as those in Australia, the US, France, and Holland, according to a recent Federal Reserve report on how consumers paid for things in 7 countries. Roughly 80% of all transactions in Germany are conducted in cash. In the US, it's 50%, and cash is the dominant form of payment there, even after large transactions. So we see what's going on in Germany again because of the loss of confidence, where people actually got wiped out. Savers got wiped out when they basically left one type of currency that they had and brought in another currency. Again, this is what happens. Inflation basically is just going to eat up and melt away your currency to where you have to start over with the new currency. And again, this is why things like gold and silver, that transfer, that store of wealth, it is the thing, probably the best thing, that will get you from point A to point B, that'll get you from this currency system to the next, and hold and store the value of your wealth. It's something that we can't stress enough here. So let's move on to another country. Let me just hang on. Okay, so that was Germany, and we move on and we get to U.S. Revolutionary War Continentals. So during the Revolutionary War, Continental Congress financed the American rebellion not by taxation, but by issuing fiat bills of credit. These paper bills were known as Continentals, and it wasn't long before people were using the phrase "not worth a Continental" in reference to anything useless, because that's exactly what the bills were. The story goes that individual states fell in line behind Congress by issuing their own fiat bills, and soon the economy was flooded with paper money that almost immediately began to depreciate. Congress and the states promptly responded by printing. And what did they do? They printed even more bills. Okay, it's exactly what we're doing still. creating a self-defeating cycle that so many others, including the U.S. again, have since experienced. Nobody wanted anything to do with the Continentals, so the government made it a crime for businesses to refuse to accept paper money or refuse to sell goods. Government actually made it a crime. By law, farmers and merchants had to accept bills that would be totally worthless almost right away, which caused said farmers and merchants to stop growing and producing, which of course ruined the economy. What's the point of business if your client pays you in worthless currency? So these are things that happen. Again, commonality there, inflation and overprinting, and how it ruined the economy and a new currency had to come in. French, I'll just call this French notes. My French accent doesn't work this morning. Here, I'll just call these French notes. So at the dawn of the French Revolution, France was buried in debt. Okay, sounds familiar. Buried in debt, and its government was desperate for a solution. A man named Charles Maurice de Talleyrand had one of those up his sleeve. Solution, and it was fairly straightforward: seize church lands and auction them off. And by the way, Talleyrand, he was a bishop when he made this suggestion. The Pope excommunicated him 2 years later, and Talleyrand went on to become a shrewd politician and diplomat who Encyclopedia.com calls an unabashed liar and deceiver whose moral corruption is beyond question. But anyway, his idea sounded pretty great to the government, so that's exactly what they did. France nationalized church properties and began issuing notes called, well, let's just say French notes, which the public could purchase with actual money and then use to lay claim to a price or a piece of property. Unfortunately for France, this easy cash grab turned into hyperinflation when the government kept printing these notes, and they actually recirculated they would recirculate it when they received any of it back. So by 1796, the face value of these notes in circulation was about 20 times the estimated value of the nationalized church properties. It didn't help that England, France's enemy at the time, was complicating the situation by printing counterfeit of these French notes and injecting them into the French economy, equivalent of overprinting. Interesting story there. So another one, Newfoundland dollars and Black Monday. December 10th, 1894, or Black Monday, as it became known, was a dark and stormy day for people of Newfoundland. That morning, the British colony's only two private banks, Union Bank and Commercial Bank, both closed forever. And the notes they'd been issuing for years lost their value. People throughout Newfoundland did business with these notes, so the crash's impact was huge. Everyone from fishermen to fish merchants to bankers, obviously, watched their savings and livelihood disappear. Story goes like this. The bank crash. Hang on, let me get this a bit bigger as well. So two of Newfoundland's and Labrador's three banks closed their doors and never opened again. The impacts were immediate and widespread. Businesses collapsed, workers became suddenly unemployed, families lost their savings, and the country, which used the banknotes as its main source of currency, was left with no reliable circulating medium. Okay, so nothing there. Although the crash caught most people off guard, it was the result of many years of reckless banking amid a troubled fishery and declining economy. The banks depleted their own holdings to loan large sums of money to fish merchants, which kind of reminds us of the Fed giving all this money to the bank to give to companies or buy their corporate bonds, and a lot of them, as much as I hear 20%, are already dead, being zombie companies. So same thing happening again. Banks depleted their own holdings to loan large sums of money to fish merchants already in debt, and in turn had to borrow from other financial institutions. This kind of reminds me of the repo market, where that was the first crack, which a lot of us saw, where banks when they borrow from each other, got to a point, the ones that apparently the ones that needed to borrow, they weren't trusted, so they were told to pay a higher rate of interest. We saw that repo market crack, and this is something that happened back then, where large sums of money to fish merchants already in debt, and in turn had to borrow from other financial institutions. So these institutions raised the interest rate, and the Fed stepped in, and that's when we saw that repo market crack back in September 2019. The process left the banks dependent on outside loans. If a crisis disturbed the process, or if the bank's credit deteriorated, then they would have to be forced to close. So this was the case on Black Monday, when Union and commercial banks they ceased operations permanently. So again, all these things sound familiar. Every single one of them is happening. Every single one of why so far all these currencies failed is happening today. Okay, and you guys understand that. We understand it. And again, this is why we get into things like gold and silver. Okay, so let me just take a look at a few of the comments here. Okay, you guys have gone political. I'll let you guys go at each other there, I guess. So anyway, yes, Robert 292. This all sounds familiar, and exactly that's the point. You know, whether it was the military payment certificates, with which just by decree could become worthless, and we're looking at these other countries throughout history, what they did that made their currencies worthless are the same things we're doing today. We are doing the same things today. So let's move on. There are a few more that want to take a look at. Then we had after Newfoundland, we Roman denarii and the crisis of the 3rd century. Now we all pretty much know what happened here, where they debased their coinage. Their coinage was silver, their coinage was gold, and the way that they printed money back then was they used less gold, they used less silver. That was their way to print back at that time frame. And so just to read a few portions here. Debasement spawned hyperinflation, and it was a long time coming too. The denarius had faced debasement for decades. Now again, think of the Federal Reserve, 1913. Back then, a dollar would buy you a dollar worth of goods, and today it can buy you. I think we're at about 4 cents of the same items. So it's lost a lot of value, and it's been debased through the years of overprinting. Almost pure silver. The denarius had faced debasement for decades. Almost pure silver during the reign of Caesar Augustus. It slowly lost value over time as emperor after emperor lowered its silver content in order to mint increasingly worthless coins. By the time Gallienus took power in 253, the denarius was a copper coin. Copper coin with the silver coating. How's your quarters doing in the U.S.? Kind of sounds familiar, right? And society was well on its way to ignoring currency and instead relying on the barter system and a kind of self-sufficiency that would later take hold in the Middle Ages. Now, about the debasement, just want to read through this. Unfortunately, taxes were still collected mainly in kind, that is, in goods and services, because despite the new system and coin reforms, inflation was still rampant. So why was this so? I can tell you that no Roman emperor had any idea. Diocletian, in his price-fixing edict of 301, sounds almost puzzled as he blames greedy profiteers for the problem. His maximum price edict, despite the severe penalties it imposed, had little effect on controlling inflation since it failed to address the actual causes. What were those causes? Had to do with the relationship between supply and demand. So while the government was collecting vast new amounts of money, it was at the same time asking for more goods and services, and the supplies of these were not growing nearly as fast as the government's need for them. The result, all those nice new coins the government was churning out could buy less and less. So same right now, all these nice new crispy bills and notes that central banks print out, they are buying less and less. So something in history as well. Brazilian Cruzeiros. It got to a point where shopkeepers would put color-coded price stickers on non-perishables because non-perishables stuck around for a while, and the price kept changing a bit. They fell within a range which was noted by a color. So if you wanted something, maybe the color was red, and red would basically it worked within a range of prices. And then maybe eventually it would turn to another color if it got too high or if it went down a bit. But this is what they had to use. They could not put a price on anything. Instead, they put a color, and then the color would associate within a price, supposedly some type of a price band. So that's how bad it got in Brazil. They could not even put a price on anything. Banknotes of the Mississippi bubble. Gold and silver were the money of France. So when Scottish financier John Law proposed opening a bank and issuing paper currency, it probably sounded like a foolish plan, but the French government was broke and desperate. So eventually what happened was he opened his bank, but this is only the beginning of his business interests. Law had a whole lot more in mind, including becoming France's finance controller and the head of foreign trade and colonial development, creating basically a monopoly. He was creating a monopoly. And his mistake was printing too many banknotes. Okay, so here we go again. He printed too many banknotes, and this one fell by the wayside as well. Confederate War silver dollars, again, they overprinted. They simply overprinted. And to give you an example here, by 1865, a pair of shoes would have run you nearly $100 in the South. Okay, would have ran you $100 in the South. Prices in the North, however, they rose. It still rose pretty high, 80%, but it wasn't too shabby of a rate for a time of war. So that same pair of shoes went for $1.70 in the Union, and that's what hyperinflation or even inflation does. You want a pair of shoes in one area, you pay $100. You want that same pair of shoes in a different area, it's $1.70. This is what it does. And it's pretty interesting. You look back, there's 2 or 3 examples already of how this hyperinflation happened in the U.S. So, you can't think you're immune to it. Yuan Dynasty, established in China by the Mongol conqueror Kublai Khan, issued a form of paper currency called Chao that was not backed by silver and gold. And again, we know the story. A lot of that fiat currency was printed, and it just, again, inflated. It inflated. People lost confidence in that money as well. And leading us to the last one, the Dutch Tulip Mania. This one is interesting because in some cases it almost sounds like today's cryptocurrency. Sorry, guys. This will be the last one. The Dutch were mad about tulips in the early 17th century, or more specifically, tulip bulbs. Tulips were somewhat of a novelty in Western Europe at the time since they had to be imported from Asia, and they caught the collective eyes of a small group of scholar botanists with money to blow. This group started trading bulbs among themselves and competing for the most exotic flowers. It was a cute little club at first. Things quickly got out of hand, and the small tulip crowd exploded into a weird social network of sorts that attracted thousands of speculators. Tulip Mania had arrived, and people were slapping down outrageous sums for exotic bulbs. 1623, someone offered 12,000 guilders, or about what you would have needed to buy a sweet house in Amsterdam, for tulip bulbs. For 10 rare Semper Augustus bulbs, the seller turned the offer down. A decade later, people were literally using tulip bulbs as currency to buy properties. I'll end it there. That's quite a bit. Thank you guys for bearing with me. But the last one kind of sounds like crypto in some ways. But I mean, it just goes to say you look at all of these countries, and we aren't any different. What's going on right now? It's just not any different. So let me take a look at some comments here. Let's see. Gooseneck 171 rental real estate. Don't know the context of it, but yeah, I'd like to touch on real estate as well. We've seen the inflation. we've seen the inflation. And I shared the story before, and recently over the weekend, I took a look at the home we had growing up back in Hawaii, which was purchased in 1971 at 17,000 US dollars. It's never changed. It's never been added to. Um, it's not a very big house. It's just 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath. In 1971, we were on a gold standard. It was $17,000. I just looked at the home on, I think it's Zillow or one of those websites. It's at 800,000, and it just blew my mind because nothing really changed. It's still a 3 bedroom, 1.5 bath. The lot size is still about a little bit over 5,000 square foot. And in 71, it was $17,000. And today, according to Zillow, the going rate is $800,000. Nothing's changed. If anything, it's gotten older. The wood's gotten older. The yard's never got bigger. Plumbing's getting older. So how does it go from 17,000 to now an average price for 800,000? So this is inflation. It's inflation. Nothing more than that. So let me take a look at a few more comments, and I think it's really inflated. Okay, so a few more comments here. Let me take a look at Danny the plumber. Money doesn't grow on trees, or does it? It's almost getting to that point where money doesn't even need to grow on trees anymore. They'll just slip it into your mailbox or your account nowadays. And that kind of takes me back to the whole when we talked about the NPCs in the beginning. They were given notes that could easily be wiped out. No good anymore. And I can tell you, back in the I'm going to say late 90s, when I was in the Air Force, we were all ordered to move to direct deposit. They weren't going to give us any more checks from the paychecks from the payslips from the Treasury. We were ordered to have direct deposit accounts. So even in that case, we didn't even get the paper anymore. It was just digits that were keystroked into our accounts. And I think at that time, it made the U.S. Air Force the biggest user of direct deposit. So, even from that sense, now no more NPCs. It's just money slipped in your account. You don't even get to see it. You don't get to hold it. There's nothing. It's just keystrokes to your account. So I'll just give a few commentary. In all of these stories, we noticed the common thread of massive money creation and inflation, and we will continue with money creation such as we've never seen. Doesn't matter whoever sits in that White House, you are going to continue to see it. I don't think there's any way out at this point. What's left is inflation, and the Fed's going after it. As we all know, they scrapped the whole 2% target. They're looking at an average 2%, which means they needed to go above 2%. So they are going to create that inflation. And the other commonality in all these stories is that a new currency was created to replace the inflated, useless, worthless prior currency. We all know about CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. The Fed and other central banks already have that new currency. It's already there. It's waiting. It's waiting in the wings. I think even Christine Lagarde said something about ECB and their central bank digital currencies. She's not saying they're going to use it, but she's already kind of hinting that it's something that's it's going to come down. It's going to happen. So all that is left is when and how. When and how will all this unfold? With that being the unknown, what is known are stores of value like gold and silver. I mean, through all these stories, time and time and time again, you can really envision this is where you need gold and silver. This is where you need gold and silver. And so precious metals, they are one of the main vehicles to store the value of your wealth and transfer your wealth into the coming new monetary system. You go back and look at these stories. Savers were wiped out. Guys holding currencies were wiped out. If you understand that you should, let's just say you should consider, again, this is not financial advice, professional or otherwise, it's just an opinion here. And in some cases, it's even what I do myself, where you take the value, let's say $20 bill or $50 bill, and you go ahead and you buy some silver with it or whatever it may be. Now, if that fiat currency, that dollar amount starts to go down, the chances are your silver is going to go up. But more importantly than that, if that dollar bill, let's say, gets into trouble or is replaced or people don't want it, countries don't want to use it for trade, nobody wants it. Nobody wants that dollar bill. Well, people still do, and all over the world want gold and silver. And that's the difference. Or I should say they understand the value of gold and silver. And this is the difference here. So, which takes me to that Veterans Day post from Franklin Knoll. And you see there was a time our governments and to a certain extent the military gave real money. They gave real money, not paper notes that could be canceled whenever and whenever or wherever and whenever. There was a time some people actually were given real money. And I'll show you in a clip from Pawn Stars, which a lot of you guys are familiar with.
So a few days ago, a guy came in the shop with these 2 blocks of rubber that are obviously government issued. One of them's cut open and it has over $1,200 worth of gold coins and jewelry in it. But the other one was sealed. To me, this sort of screams Cold War, James Bond, spy stuff. But I have a lot of questions. And the only person who's going to know about these things is Alex Kramer.
These are cool. So is this one
sealed? Yeah, that's the sealed one.
All right, and this one's open. So it says, if found, return to ComNav Airlant. That stands for Command Naval Air Force Atlantic. So these are called, in the military collecting community, escape and evasion barter kits. These were issued by the U.S. government for naval aviators, generally just pilots. Chances are you get this if you were going over occupied territory. The purpose of this, if you got shot down, bailed out, survived, and you found yourself on the ground, there was a pretty good chance that you could get home as long as you weren't captured right away, because the Germans were occupying France and Belgium, and if you need food, you need shelter, the best thing you can do is give them gold.
So we're talking World War II here.
Oh, yeah, definitely World War II.
There you go. Escape and evasion kits. A soldier could barter with gold. And even in Asia, we can recall the stories of during the Vietnam War where the boat captains, the guys taking refugees, they were offered money. They were offered things like gold. So you can imagine who had the seat on the boat to get out. It was gold. Gold essentially saved people's lives back then. Could save people's lives even back in the war. But a soldier could borrow with war. Why? Could barter with gold. Why? It was valuable. Everyone everywhere knows gold and silver to be money, a store of value, as we often and always talk about. So in this case, something that could preserve life by the wealth it holds. Today, our currency, it doesn't hold wealth. It loses value, and we give our lives chasing something that is worth less and less each year as we get older and older. It's simply not the way to go. So again, what I want to do is play this last clip from Dave Drummond of Georgetown Trust. It might be time for some of you out there to explore the reasons to vault your precious metals or to store precious metals outside of your home jurisdiction and in a more peaceful, stable, more favorable jurisdiction, considering all the things that are going on right now, that store of wealth, that store of value, the jurisdiction, all of these things. So I'll play this clip from Dave Drummond.
I believe, like many people, gold and silver are stores of wealth. They could also be an investment instrument, but if you don't look at them like an investment instrument, if you look at them as stores of wealth, you'll note that they hold them very well. And then where have the stores of wealth typically been put? They've been put in areas where there's low risk or smaller risk of those countries being invaded and the gold being taken. So do I think it's wise? Yes, I think it's wise to have some gold and silver within hands reach, some gold and silver within cars reach, and then some gold and silver within no one's reach, right? With that, I believe that there are places then to store your gold and silver. Looking for places like you guys have that capability. Look for those companies that have that ability and use it. Same type of thing, right? Redundancy.
Okay, so there you go. Again, we are all in different situations. All of us, we're all in different financial situations. That's for sure. In some cases, keep it all with you. You may decide to keep it all with you, and the the ideal of if you don't hold it, you don't own it comes into play. And again, I was always a believer. I still am. Depending how things are, you know, you should have gold and silver on you. In some cases, some people have done very well. They can't keep it all on them. They may want to take positions in it, so they're looking in places that they need to store it, and they need to store it in a jurisdiction that is favorable to storing it in that location, favorable for their needs. So it's just we're all in different situations here, so we have to do what's best for us. And sometimes what's best for us is we accumulate and we keep it with us. Sometimes what's best for us is maybe you've done well, you're starting to see what's going on, you're understanding things, and you need to have that store of wealth because we see what happens with paper currencies. You need to have another store of wealth, vehicle that can transfer you from here to there. So that kind of sums up what Dave Drummond was saying. It's no right or wrong. It all depends on your own personal belief and your own personal situation as well. So take a look at a few comments and then we'll be heading out here. Let's see. Let's see. You guys always got some great conversations going on. I'm not even sure where to jump in and pull up a comment. Max Strong, okay. I'll give you $10 for that, Rick. I don't think I'll give Rick 11. There you go. I'll give him 11 there, Max. So let's see what else is out there. Thomas Tubes, at one time the pound sterling was literally a pound of sterling silver. Hard to imagine. Yeah, that is hard to imagine. Debasement, debasement. I guess that's to kind of look at it now. Back then it was with the monetary amount or the metal content itself, and today it's has to do with all the overprinting. Let's see. Carrie Ellen Wilder. Refugees escaping Saigon in March, April of 75 had suitcases of gold early on. Later, refugees had nothing but clothes on their backs. 2 points there. It goes to show the gold, how gold is desired over a currency, fiat currency, and it goes to show the wealth gap. It goes to show the wealth gap, and also either people who understood the value of gold and were able to get it, but sometimes people understood the value of gold and may not have been able to get it. There's silver. There is silver as well, but it's yes, that's basically what happened with Vietnam. Bit of a wealth gap as well. What we're seeing today, absolutely. So great comment there. Appreciate that comment. Let's see. Let's take one more comment if I can find one, and then we'll be heading out. Let's see. Sorry, just let me look through this. Okay, last one, Mr. Nguyen. Junk silver will be the barter money when digital currency starts. I could see that in a sense where whenever a new monetary system comes in, either a black market starts or people they reflect back to money they could trust. And for the U.S. anyway, people know junk silver. They see the coin, they know that coin was used as money, and then when they realize that coin was 90% silver and they realize what silver and gold are actually meant to do, I can see how junk silver would definitely be in perhaps the beginning the preferred or trusted item of silver and gold to use. Most of the population may not know, gold and silver and things like that to how they were used as money before. So it'll take a bit of time convincing, but definitely silver and gold in its more pure form. Silver eagles, gold maples, things like that. Those will eventually play out, and those I suspect are going to be the more desired pieces to have the 99949 type of gold and silver. But great point there. Okay, so with that, I guess we'll be wrapping up here. You guys definitely have some great comments there, so appreciate that. Okay, so with that, again, as always, keep in mind, be a blessing, not a burden. We all know what's coming on. There's going to be, a little bit of trials and tribulations going on, but there's going to be a lot of opportunity as well. Take the time to understand and to position yourself in a way where you will come out ahead on the other side once we transition over. It's more than just the everyday gold and silver price. It's about what it does: storing of value, store of wealth, transfer, being able to transfer your wealth. So be a blessing, not a burden. Help people to understand as best you can, and I thank you for helping people watching to understand as well. With that, as always, I will say, saddle up for what's coming ahead and silver up. I'll see you guys next week, and you guys take care of each other. We'll see you.